Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Wow, it's so beautiful to see people joining outdoors. Usually, we're used to seeing all of each other's kitchens and sometimes bedrooms and closets. I've seen. Now we do see a bit of nature in the background. So fantastic for those of you who are joining us today in nature, and for those who are joining indoors, and also for you who are joining afterwards, watching the video of this. A warm welcome to you all from the Nacka Naturreservat, nature reserve, just in the outskirts of southeastern Stockholm. Yeah, we've got a fun little mix here in front of us of nature and tripods, microphones. And we hope that you will be patient with us today as well for some potential lag in connection, and if the sound is not 100% at times, but hopefully we'll still be able to connect with you and with each other and with the nature space that we sit in respectively. So this is an inner development goals gathering, and one beautiful thing with this is that we gather from wherever we are around the world and join in this common interest, passion, momentum for another world, perhaps, or for another way of relating to the world around us, ourselves and each other. And we get to explore in different ways. And today I have with me two fantastic individuals who will be guiding us and you throughout this gathering, Göran Gennvi and Pella Thiel. You'll be introducing yourselves shortly. And before we get started, I just want to, there'll be more of this, but I just want us to land in the room together momentarily before we zoom into our conversations and practices of the day. So if you'll join me, I invite you to just perhaps first close your eyes, if you will, or just soften your gaze and take in what comes to you through your ears. Just listen. And breathe. Perhaps notice your heartbeat. And breathe a little deeper. Inhaling and exhaling. Inhaling and exhaling. Just sense into your body, the surface you're sitting on. There might be a wind or a breeze touching your skin. Just sense into the connection. And we'll come back to the room. And you can look at your screens. Both look at your screen and beyond your screen or beside your screen, and kind of integrate the full picture. We're connecting with each other through the screens, and we're connecting with what's around us outside of the screen. So today's gathering is special, and it's unique of a gathering so far. We're doing this online in nature, and we have fantastic guides with us who are very used to connecting with nature, and perhaps not as used to doing it in this particular way. But I think what I'm really excited about today is that I believe that what might come up from both Pella's and Göran's immense experience is not only, if you will, the connection of nature, of being in nature, but so much of what we talk about in the inner development goals, the broadness, the full broadness of the 5 dimensions and the 23 skills, they really, really, to me, come together. That's what I sort of foresee, at least, when we will have this conversation. It's a matter of touching on the complexity, touching on the sensing and the relating and the being. So without further ado, I want to hand over this mic to you to introduce yourselves and today's conversation and practice. I just want to mention, sorry, as well, that we will be doing our best to do the breakout session as well after some practice and conversation, and then at the end of the gathering we'll have also a half-hour afterglow opportunity to connect and informally talk in breakouts or in thematic conversations as well. So that's what we have ahead, and we understand if you also might need to kind of turn off screen sometimes if you want to save battery or for whatever reason, but hope and know that you will be there on the other side. So thank you, and give it away to Göran and Pella.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And hi, everybody. I can recognize a few faces already.
Do you? They are very small, though.
Yeah, very small. So actually, we are going to do this very smoothly, I hope. I would like to introduce myself through Pella and by asking her why she's here. And who are you?
I'm an ecologist and an activist, and I work for, well, what the inner development goals aim at: a society in harmony with ourselves and with the more than human beings. And I also work with ecopsychology. So this relation to the more than human beings is really a core theme for me. And I have been inspired by you for a very long time. And you are one of the elders in this movement in Sweden. So I'm quite curious about that and how it started and why you think it's so important.
Thank you. Well, yeah, first of all, I think the most, the biggest gift is when you can touch a young person in a way that probably myself and some other elders did with you. So you can see your work continues to actually protect the beauty we are living in and in nature. And just to bring my own story very shortly, my family was moving a lot. I was the only child. My mother had cancer when I was a very little boy. And the safest place for my soul and myself was actually in nature. So every place we moved to, I went into the forest and stayed there amongst my friends. So it was a kind of a calming feeling. And since then, I have been understood also very early that I would like to work or be part of nature and introduce people into nature. So I started also as a teenager as a guide at Mulle, as a Friluftsfrämjandets Mulleskola with small kids. And it gave me so much to see these small souls and bodies be so happy when they had the freedom in nature. So then when I was a little bit older, even in my teens, I started to work as a mountain guide at summers up in the north. And once there was lots of decision makers on that place at the hotel. And we were above the timberline, laying on our backs after lunch, looking at the clouds, and one of these very famous CEO that was laying on his back just beside me said, "This is the way I would like to feel when I make decisions." So that was kind of my vision. Is it possible that to connect to that inner place is perhaps the most important place to connect to the values and the parts of ourselves that has to be part of our decisions for the future. So that was actually my inspiration. And since then, that has been my path. So what we are doing now, it's lots of birds. I hope you can hear it. And I don't want to call it in a way sacrifice, but we are giving blood. and it's actually the mosquitoes, and they get really fat. And in a while, that mosquito will be part of a little bird's growth. And for myself, that is a fantastic feeling to really get it into the flesh. It's also a way to handle the mosquitoes.
By transcending the itchy feeling. Yeah.
So actually, it's not a joke only. It's actually also what I think both Pella and myself want to bring into this conversation is this deep nature connection, to step out of the head for a while, and be part of this planet that's already are the paradise, and we are invited to explore it with our senses.
So we do want to encourage you that if it's possible to get outside and in an environment that is more natural maybe than indoors, or if you can be close to a window, and as much connection that you can get with nature, because we are going to make a sensory exercise with you. And I think this is really related to the inner development goals, that the understanding, like, why are we in an ecological crisis now? And to me, in an ecological crisis now, and to me as an ecologist, ecology is really about relationships between humans and other beings, and between us and the wind and the water and the sun and everything that there is. And physicist Fritjof Capra, he has said that actually the ecological crisis is really a crisis of perception, that we have a skewed way of perceiving who we are and how the world works. And she says that at the root of the ecological crisis is the deadening of our senses, so that we have become numb to the living world. And that's actually what you're always working with, releasing our sensory perception of the living world. And I think that's really...
Sorry, we lost the connection there for a moment. We're working on getting it back up. Hold tight.
Okay, let's continue. So the experience by the senses is the kind of the gateway to this physical form. The perceptions is the possibilities to enjoy life in this physical form, and to open up and reconnect with and catching even the weakest signals that's always going on around us. The smells, the wind, the sounds, everything that's connecting us with the rest of life, and it's very it's a gift to remind ourselves once in a while of what's around, and be completely present here and now. And as Pella said, if you have a chance now to connect to something green or something else, even look at the clouds or the sky or whatever you can find around you, or if you have a flower indoors or something. And we do together, we will do a sensing exercise and continue a little bit with what Ola started. So what I will do now is to guide you through a sensing exercise, and we open up for what's calling us. So if you just start again with a few deep breaths, I recommend you to close your eyes and connect with your body. Your feet on the ground. And if you can feel the surface between the ground and your feet. The ankles. The lower legs. The knees. Feel the upper legs. Feel the butt. The lower back. The upper back. Feel, is there any tensions? Release. Your shoulders. Your upper arms. Your elbows. The lower parts of the arms. Feel the hands. Everything is relaxed. Feet, legs, butt, back, shoulders, arms, hands. Everything is relaxed. Now relax the neck, the upper head. Relax the forehead. Relax the face, the chins, the breast, everything relaxed. Relax the stomach. Deep breath. A relaxed body. And now listen to the sounds. Pick the strongest sound. Give it full attention. Listen to the sounds. The loudest, strongest sound. And release it. Now try to find another sound. Give that sound attention. Listen just to the sound. and release. Pick a third sound. You can also try to recognize from where the sound is coming. Is it from the right, from the left, behind you, or in front of you? Different sounds. Relaxed body. Different sounds. Now we go over to skin. The sensing skin. The touch from a breeze. Perhaps from a sun. Cool, comforting breeze. Or the fabric on the skin. Feel the touch on the skin. Relaxed body. Different sounds. Senses on the skin. Everything at the same time. Now try to pick a smell. Is there a smell of green, flower, moss, perhaps water? Try to recognize a smell. The body, the sounds, the touch, smell. Now try to taste the air. Taste the air at the same time you smell. Relaxed body. All the sounds. Now you can softly open your eyes, but just gaze. Do not focus. Just gaze in front of you. Not on the screen, on the wall, or towards the sky. Or if you are lucky, a horizon between the land and sky. Gazing in front of you, at the same time, you recognize the sky above you, the ground below in front of you, to the right, to the left, like a parabol of sight. Be completely present. Relaxed body. Different sounds. The touch on the skin. The smells. taste everything at once. Recognize the present feeling inside of you. So connected with what's outside of you. Everything is one. The air that you inhale tumbles around in the body. The carbon oxide when you exhale. You share with the plants and everything outside. So now we can come back.
Or I would say actually stay in your generous attention that your senses are now giving to the world. Stay in that presence with your senses, and where you are, there will be many more than human beings. Some of them are very small. Some of them are very big. Some of them maybe live for just one day or a week, while others have a lifespan of many human generations. So where you are sitting now, see if you can find one being that's close to you and focus your attention on this being. Maybe it's an animal, maybe it's a tree, maybe it's a smaller plant or a lichen or a fungus. And as you are giving your attention to this being, see if you can meet with it, perceive it as a person, as a subject. Two subjects meeting each other. And with your imagination, think about how does this being perceive the world? What interests, what needs does it have? What relations does it have to other beings? And what relations does it have to you? And say thanks to this being for being with you here and now. And now you can come back.
Yeah, Ola, I think it's a good time now that we start to sharing. This could be, or for myself at least, it's an existential experience, and I think it's if you touch into that part of yourself, it's also a very important part, of course, with the whole idea around the inner development. Inner development is a spiritual journey. And the only way to survive as species is that we commune with the bigger community, which is life as such. So I think it's a good thing to kind of just open up whatever comes up for you in smaller groups.
And then we'll come back to the large group and do some sharing and harvesting there. All right, let's see, we're gathering back, everybody. All right, so yeah, please just feel free to open up to share with the rest of us something that came up for you, and that you perhaps shared or listened to someone else sharing in your breakout rooms. David, Mata, but do you have a reflection question?
No, I mean, I joined, I'm sorry, a little bit late, but I was enjoying the pictures of the forests and of the smiling faces. I'm from Lebanon. I shared my experience about having a daily walk in the early morning before sunrise in a nearby forest, and well, part of my routine now. And I enjoy it very much. You know, I'm a mindfulness teacher as well. So I use I enliven the senses, the 5 senses. I try to really feel them and also have a feeling and sensations in the body and a connectedness with nature. It's really wholesome exercise when I can bring my mind to really disconnect from thoughts, maybe too many thoughts and plans. I see that nature resonates with our inner being, and that, you know, I feel connected to it. And I have now friends among trees, shrubs, and small animals. So I started recognizing them, you know, and saying hello to them and hello back. So it's a beautiful feeling. This is my humble experience.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
I to share my experience. I was sharing this in my group. It was really beautiful to connect with myself at the beginning. But for me, it was a really great experience when you told about connect with a living being around you. So I was thinking at first about my dog, which Elaine here. And after that, I was like, oh, I have a plant here. So it was the first time I had a so intense connection to this plant. And I told her, I'm so sorry, I didn't notice you before, that you're like a living being here in my house, making this house beautiful. So it was a really great experience for me. Thank you very much for that. I will go through the house after that and greet all my plants around. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. That's a good idea. Any other reflections around connection and your sensing?
We were discussing how to bring people out in nature when they are disconnected. For me, it is natural to be connected, and I don't know how to live not being it, but I don't know how I got it. So if I find people in nature, I think that process is almost natural. I think that is, we're doing an IDG retreat in northern Italy next year, and we really want to do it outside. And but my question was how to bring people there who do not see it, who do not feel it, the ones who need it the most, because between us, I think a lot of us feel that connection. So we were discussing a little bit of what can bring them there. It's a little bit of resistance. I'm living in Milan, and it's a lot of, I don't know, I choose a very challenging town in that sense. A lot of people working and focusing the outside. So I like challenges. So, but it's, what is the narrative we can use? What is the topic that perhaps we can present that is so attractive that even if I'm not connected, I do choose to go out in nature, and then the magic happens. It's a little bit of a Trojan horse. It's like, because not everyone is actually there.
Yeah.
Well, that was a really, we didn't finish it all, but it was a very beautiful reflection with Cecile, that she was telling me that find a topic that is so interesting that people will go out there, and then the magic can happen. So I'm going to think a little bit of that. Any reflection, if anyone else has been doing this, I'm very interested to connect.
I think we have both Göran and Pella are very experienced on this, and could you reflect a bit on bringing executives or people who might be feeling disconnect or not feeling connection with nature really, and bringing them to nature?
One very efficient way is to have the authority over the group. If you if you can get the for example, the CEO or the chairman or the inviter to a conference, and so to get them into to the understanding of the benefit of it, the benefit of more efficient meetings, for example, that people step beyond their roles and be more authentic, and that is also a kind of a one of the very efficient arguments that I've experienced, at least over the years. So that's at least one. I don't know, Pella, if you have.
Yeah, all of the sneaky ways to bring people out. To me, actually, the best experiences I've had, or some of the best, has been to bring new parents with babies, because they often have a lot of time, at least in Sweden, where you have a lot of you get a lot of time to be with your baby, and then maybe you want to do something with other grown-ups and you don't know what. So we've had a lot of nature walks with new parents with their strollers, actually in this very forest. And otherwise, I think it's, I mean, to me, I want to bring people out and into connection, because we need that, like the living whole needs that. But sometimes you have to do it, as you say, as a Trojan horse, to get people out because they have a need. For example, that they want to have more efficient meetings, or that they feel stressed. I mean, there is so much research on health benefits of being out. So I think actually, if you can frame that as a practice for people for their own health, and then they can experience wholeness and connection with nature, and change how they attend to the world. And I don't know how it is in your various contexts, but I think it's so crazy that I mean, since there is so much knowledge about this, why don't we do it in every school, every day? That's a mystery to me. So I think there's a lot to do on the policy dimension of nature connection.
Yeah. Another topic that we want to bring in also via this possibility to meet you all is actually that for myself, and I know I shared this with Pella, you know, we have created the society as we are dealing with now as human beings. We are the designers, and we are kind of holding the system in our hands. Nature, we can't conquer nature, but we have created the economical system and everything. And actually, what is scary sometimes is that we're trying to be more efficient doing the wrong things. So I mean, it could also be that we will have more efficient meetings to do. We have created the society as we are dealing with now as human beings. We are the designers, and we are kind of holding the system in our hands. Nature, we can't conquer nature, but we have created the economical system and everything. And actually, what is scary sometimes is that we're trying to be more efficient doing the wrong things. So I mean, it could also be that we will have more efficient meetings to do more damage.
Yeah.
And you know, when it comes to nature connections, you can see it in different levels. For example, one is that we can see all over the world through all the media. We have an interest to understand and learn about nature. All the TV programs and films and everything. So there is a connection already, a longing. And then, of course, we also have nature as an outdoor recreation arena. But still, we do more damage via that consumption as well. And then, of course, we can go even deeper and have it as a use for our personal development, still doing the wrong things. Yeah. So actually, there is something wrong in our mindset or worldview, in my opinion. And I could say that, as you know, we have these ideas around the planetary boundaries. We have all the facts and figures to show where we're heading, and still we are continuously driving us the wrong direction. So Pella and a friend of ours, they written a book last year, and they put it on the, I will say, right into our face. And I would like you to tell us a little bit about what you were writing about.
Yeah, the book has the humble name in Swedish, Naturlagen, the law of nature, and it addresses the core assumption in our culture. So not as humans, but actually in the Western civilization, that we are separate from the rest of the living world, and the rest of nature is actually just resources for us to use. And that's why I wanted to do this exercise with you, where you meet with another being as someone, not as something. And I think maybe to many of you, you do that all the time. But actually in our culture, we don't, because we don't perceive other beings as subjects, as persons, as other people with interests and needs. But we perceive them as only resources, objects for us to use. And so I am part of, actually, it wasn't just last year, it took 7 years to write that book. And it really comes from the rights of nature and earth jurisprudence movement, which is one of the most powerful movements to transform our culture and our worldview in a positive and necessary direction. And I think it also addresses, like, because when we talk about development and sustainable development, when we say development, we often mean that we want to have more control and domination over nature. That's kind of implicit in development. So then when we say sustainable development, what does that really mean? I think we have to reframe how we think about development, and to include not just humans, but actually the living whole. And then we have to see that not only humans have rights, but actually all living beings have rights, and that we have to have a generous attention to the living beings, to see how can we negotiate our rights with the others. Because if we don't, then there's actually no limit. There's no way for us to stop the exploitation of the world, which is now of horrendous proportions. So we will go deep sea mining, we will go out in space, because there is no way that we can actually, there are no breaks. And I think like meeting, this is actually, so it's a practice and a development model on a societal level, but it can come through a personal meeting and attention to the world. And I think that's so beautiful, because how we perceive the world actually determines how we perceive the world. Like how we use our attention decides what we see. And we have to shift that, and we have to do it on a collective level, and that can really begin with each of us. And I think it's so interesting to do it through the senses, like you guided us, because today we have our sense making, our collective sense making is kind of out of kilter with the living world. So how do we make sense in another way? Maybe by how we use our senses. And that's actually also a really sensual experience. It's about sensuality. It's about our senses making love to the world, isn't it?
Yes.
That's so beautiful.
Yes. There you have it. Actually, there is one concept. One of my close friends, I was referring to your book, and you described it so well. A word that many of you have heard, I'm sure, Anthropocene. Can't you please describe the difference, or what it means with Anthropocene, and also what it means with the anthropocentric worldview?
Yeah, the Anthropocene is the proposed new era that we are in now. When I was born, we thought that we were in the Holocene, which is the era that began about 10,000 years ago after the last ice age. But now Earth system scientists are saying that we are humans, or actually then Western civilization mainly, has such an impact on such a scale, on a global scale, that we have become the dominating geological force. So we have entered into a new era, which is called the Anthropocene. And to me, it's like, if you want to understand why that happened, I think it has to do with the anthropocentric notion that the world revolves around the human being. And this is not this is not the notion that all humans have, but it's a notion, it's a core assumption of our civilization, as I said. And it's actually, it goes so deep, and it's so old. So the legitimizing voices of our civilization, first Christianity, which said that humans are the only being with a soul, and we are created in the image of God, and we are here to dominate the rest of the living world. And then along came enlightenment and said that, well, actually, maybe it's not just God who has all the knowledge, but maybe humans can also find out things about the world. And that's when science was born. And the philosophers of science, they actually said that that's the duty, the task of science is to establish the human domination over the universe. And I was trained in ecology, which is part of science, and I think we haven't really rethought that, and we have to do that because it's just not true. And I think it's below our dignity as human beings to continue with this assumption, which is just wrong. It's just a misunderstanding, but it's a misunderstanding upon which we have built our institutions for hundreds and hundreds of years. So when you say that, well, maybe actually nature can have rights, and that those rights can be upheld in law and in the institutions of law, that's poking very deep into the foundations of our culture in a way that's actually very productive and constructive and beautiful.
Right. Yeah. I'm so happy that we have Pella and people like her, having the strong voice for nature throughout society and through all the different channels that you are helping to bring these ideas out with. Actually, there is one thing that for myself that has been very much involved in a business society and leadership and all that. One thing that I often try to remind myself of is that the Swedish word of business is nurturing life, näringsliv. What else could it be? I mean, if it wouldn't be for life, why go to the job? So actually, I think it's lots of kind of common sense also in our history. If we just look a bit, and we could just go to our grandparents and sometimes just to our parents and see there is a nature connection that has been lost amongst us, at least in my generation. So on our own backyards, there is lots of wisdom to capture. One thing that I've seen or actually experienced very, very efficient, because I've tried with all the management tools and leadership training tools, but the deepest one that I came across was actually something called we call it actually Nature Quest, which is to reconnect again for a long time. I mean, for 5 days, 4 nights in solo, just spending time with yourself with a capital S and connecting to what is living around you and communing with the bee, with the bumblebee, with the grass, with the birds, with everything. There, when you do that, you make that kind of investment in yourself, because that's what it's all about. You coming out on the other side, much more open to life as such. Especially if you have a position, you can make a big change, even if it's in a small scale.
And could you say something about like what responses do you get when people have done a solo like that?
Actually, this was a life-changing experience. That is what people say. And some doing it year after year after year. I know in this community, some of you are familiar with Peter Senge and Otto Scharmer, for example. John P. Milton, he's actually in Sweden now, giving programs. There's lots of these people that we are leaning on when it comes to theories and methods and all that. But on a regular basis, going back on a deeper journey with nature. So it's to find a way to create the pattern, actually, just as we heard in the sharing, to take the morning walks and to say hello, as some of you said, to the plants every morning. Walk around in the flat, and you know that is, it's touching by heart the world around you. And I think that is one of the most important parts also to bring in when it comes to the inner development goals. The inner development is about to open up for the rest of life. So I think this is something that is what we want to bring out also with this event, and also make it visible that you can step outside and have a meeting on a global scale, as we are doing now. And sharing probably can you hear the bird song behind us? Yes, because it's also sharing the rest of life with each other.
Thank you. Yeah. We have a hand raised by David.
Yes, I would like, beautiful what I've been hearing, and I want to share a quote that I read for Claude Monet, the famous painter. He said, to see, we must forget the name of the thing we are looking at. And so to truly see, we must forget the name of the thing. Humans are very adept in naming things. And this is the beginning of the rational process and thinking. So, and this is where connectedness stops. When we start naming things, they are external to us. They are not anymore part of us. And in mindfulness, when we do, for example, the raisin exercise, we look at it deeply inside out, the raisin or any object that we have. We just see it without naming it. And we try to look at things without truly, rationalizing about them. And so the third of the IDGs is very important, about relationship with the whole. And I think it comes more important than the cognitive skills that we are trying to develop. So to see without, see the form, see the color, feel the texture and whatever is more important than what it is as content and as, object of relationship that we can exploit or we can dissect or we can analyze or synthesize. And it's a beautiful experience. My experience is that when I studied mindfulness is actually this one. The most thing that I benefited from is to look and hear the raw material before the mind kicks in and starts, its work. So this is my little
Thank you.
contribution.
Beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. That's so interesting. I mentioned before Laura Seval, the psychologist, and she has been working a lot on perception and how we relate through to the world through perception. And I would say that she's talking about perceptual flexibility, so that you can actually shift from doing what you say, forgetting about the name and just perceiving the being or the living world without thinking about what it is, but just how it introduces itself to you. But then you can also shift your your perception to seeing it as something which has a name, where you can say, hello, linden tree, for example, which we have here in front of us. So I think you can actually do both.
Thank you.
There's so much that comes up, I sense. We mentioned something about agency and subjecthood, subjectivity in our conversation, sort of pre-talk. It's been touched upon here as well in like just the aspect of relating to what is around us, and I really like the aspect of what's beyond the categories and beyond the names. But is there something more there, Pella, and perhaps Göran as well, to be said around this subjectivity of nature that is lost, and why? Something I wonder about there.
Yeah, that's really rich. So from the worldview of Western civilization, the anthropocentric civilization, actually humans are subjects with agency, while other beings are not. And while we as people know that this is not true, like I mean, children knows that trees and insects and dogs and other beings all want things. They have agency. They strive for fulfilling their needs and their interests. But our institutions, they don't. And that's why we can, for example, cut down forests and blow up mountains and call that development. So if we collectively have to understand what it means if we say that actually development has to include the other beings, because they also have agency, and if we don't, then then we will taste that agency in ways that are actually not so comfortable. And this is what's starting to happen, because they have agency whether we recognize that or not. So but it's actually a transformation of our culture to say that, to understand that that nature is subjective. And I think that's also, as I said before, that's so rich, because that means we can meet with nature, and that also creates us as people. So one of the pioneers of the Rights of Nature movement was a Catholic priest in the US, Thomas Berry, and he said that actually the world is a community of subjects, not a collection of objects. And that's kind of a simple truth, but it's also a transformational truth. What do you think, Ola, about that?
Yeah, I think there's something, I mean, I think you're totally right, and that something needs to be recoded in what we include, in what we see as change, as development. I was having a conversation with a friend the other day, and we talked about change as well, and I was thinking, it just sort of came to me very strongly that it really, it's really a matter of what we choose to, as you've already mentioned in the sensing exercise, what we choose to pay attention to. Where do we direct our attention? And is it only the big tree in the around me that gets the attention, or is it the little worms that come out at night to pick up the moistness of the grass and then go back into the earth and do their work that's not anywhere seen? And even if I look at the big tree here, is it just the crown and the green leaves, or is it the entire process around the cyclical year of the death of fall and winter, and the process of like extending the roots in the soil throughout the before the spring comes? And then it's all, there's so much action happening all the time, but it's all seemingly internal until leaves pop out and we as human beings register, oh, there's a majestic tree in front of me. So I think there's and I think that speaks to what we're talking about in the inner development conversations, is to see that which is not perhaps manifested instantly or directly, or see me as the entire being that I am, and not just my accomplishments, for example. Yeah, we have a moment before. I want to respect also people's times. We have a moment before we are reaching final, but I saw you, Pella, grabbing for a thought. So let that be our final thought before the.
I just want to share a short thing. I'm from, I don't know if I mentioned, but I'm in the board of Oak Island Foundation, one of the founders of the IDGs. And on the Oak Island, we have big oak trees. And the big oak trees also gives acorn. And the acorns, within the acorn, you can find the dream of a big oak tree. So you have the potential, the willing of flourish, and we share that. So when we comes into this physical form, we're longing for the best protection and the best possibilities for flourishing and striving, and of course be the best person as I can, as well as the oak tree. So it's very, very important actually to be humble enough even to this acorn, because it's a living will inside that acorn. Yeah, so that is my kind of final.
Next session we will talk about what then can we eat.
Yeah,
that's a cliffhanger. Thank you so much. Pella and Göran, and we will be staying on for the afterglow. But for those who need to leave at this time, we will close this particular space and circle, if we will, by the traditional thank you and goodbye. So if everyone wants to unmute and put on your camera and just say thank you and goodbye in your languages, and then we'll continue with the afterglow afterwards. So thank you. Tack så mycket.
Thank
Hej
you.
då.
Muchas gracias. Gracias. Chao. Hasta luego.